Hello, this is Shay Thomas, talking about health, well-being, radio, and the topic today is going to be about polygamy, and I'm going to start off with how how I found out about it. I met a gentleman years ago who had told me, I actually was a coworker, and he told me that he was married to two women. It's part of his religion. He was Muslim, and although it's not legal, they subscribe to it through because of the religion. Now, when I first heard about this, I was like, "Oh, this dude has a lot of game, and these women are naive, and the religion is not fair to women." You know, it took me some time. I think actually saw. I have this thing where I like African movies, and African movies actually touch the topic. They're actual polygamous relationships in the African movies, and this was I believe '90s when I first saw um, an African movie that actually had a polygamous relationship inside of it, and when I realized, it kind of taught me a little bit. It was entertainment but educational at the same time. The storyline was about a husband who married his wife that kept uh, reproducing daughters, and he told her, he said, if this is the last time, if I have another female child, I'm going to have to marry a second wife. And, she's crying and she's like, what am I supposed to do? And whatever. And when she got pregnant again, of course, it was a female child. So he went out and he brought the next wife home. And boom, she gave him a son. Um, of course, this brought in jealousy, and then it was drama, and she tried to poison the kid. It was just really, it was a good movie though. But the point of it was the husband wanted to have his last name carried on. When you marry a female, the female has to take on the husband's name. So that was one of the reasons why. Um, I also saw that the women, you know, were, both involved in the housework in the movie, of course, and they both were to take turns with the children. Like the children played together, they were raised as siblings. Also, the first wife and the husband were helping the third wife while she was in school. So the third wife, I'm sorry, the third wife, the second wife was helping out with the children and cooking and things of that nature, but she also was being supported while she was in school, which I thought was kind of functional for a polygamous relationship. That's something you can't get in a monogamous relationship. So the mother has to take care of the kids, and she has to also fulfill her dream of being whatever career she wants to be, which she has to either have one or the other, which was something that I thought was interesting as well. Um, the other thing is that you know, you kind of like, if he has two wives, there's no real need for him to step outside. There would be no excuse for him to do that, because it's not like you don't have versatility at home, and it's not like he can't marry as many women as he can afford. So instead of having sex with these women and discarding them like tramps on the street, which he really shouldn't be touching tramps on the street because he can be infected uh, by STDs. Um, he can marry this woman and is more humane to keep her and bring her a part of the family and support her as she grows as well, instead of just using her body and finding a way to disappear, which is very inhumane. It's a way. It's like, you're not valuable. That's what it says. Like, you're only good for sexual purposes, but in terms of actually being a part of an upward movement, or a community that is going forward, you're not valuable. And that's what I've kind of picked up in watching polygamous relationships, or in the movie, of course. It's like those things are kind of like, obvious when you look at it. There's no woman that's being discarded in a polygamous relationship. So, and the children will have the father in the home, in opposed to a monogamous relationship where the the husband has to choose, like, well, which one of us are you going to be with? So now he's spending time with the first kids or the second kids because he can't make it with one of the women. But in the meantime, they are all co-parenting. The kids are being raised. Um, they have to know each other unless the mother says, I don't want her knowing the kids. But it's not fair to the child that they don't grow up knowing their siblings. So it's very sticky. So instead of bringing both women into the equation and they all build and help each other out, everybody is all stretched out. She's paying $900 for her rent, the other one's paying this amount for their rent, and he's in between homes, and which is ridiculous. So it's like, nobody can financially go anywhere because it's a strain. And then one is pursuing him for child support, so that's going to pretty much break the man, so he won't be effective for anybody, not even himself. He can't, really be a man because, the courts are in his pocket. And I'm not saying that these men are not trying to avoid their situations, because there are men that will straight up, if they can say that that child is not mine to avoid paying for it, they will. There are a lot of men that will do that. But um, I think in a polygamous relationship, or a polygamous society, I think the men are required to be more responsible and more, um, committed in a polygamous relationship. So, and me personally, without even putting my own views about it in there, I'm just being fair. I have my views. I believe in monogamy. I was raised in a situation where my grandmother, and grandfather were married, all the way till my grandfather passed, and my mom. All I knew was my mother and my father. I didn't know of any other man, which I have to give my mother props for. It's not like she had a bunch of men in the house. I actually knew one man, and that was my pops. So, you know, um, and then if he did step outside the relationship, which he did, uh, I saw my mother fight the other woman, and that was something that told me that it's wrong for a man to have two women. So, those are the things that I kind of grew up seeing, which was monogamous relationships. But monogamous relationships also have, some things where, it's not really conducive. I'm not saying that it works for certain people, but it may not if you are someone who has an appetite, a very strong sexual appetite that needs variety. So, and speaking of that, some people are polyamorous. Polyamorous relationships or polyamorous people are people who uh, can fall in love with many people, and that's what they believe in. So, a polyamorous woman may be just polyamorous, but society will call her a slut. So and a polyamorous man may be polyamorous, but they'll call him a cheater or a dog. So I think if the person would actually look into themselves and see what their appetite is and actually see, like, am I polyamorous or am I just someone who just is not satisfied, which is probably the same thing. But, only they can say whether or not they're polyamorous or not. So I think if they can be honest with themselves and then become honest with the people that they're in relationships with, I think that they'll be able to change the outcome of the negativity that they bring into relationships. Because, if you tell somebody I'm polyamorous, which means that um, I fall in love with people, um, and this is just what I do. I'm not going to be totally monogamous with you. I will be meeting other people and I will be having sex with other people, and this is just who I am. So if they can be honest about that, or if they can meet people that believe in that, then it stops a lot of heartaches and things in that nature. So, that's just something that I've been thinking about, and I just wanted to kind of share that. The other side is a little personal. I mean, I hate self-disclosure, but I'm gonna have to, just to make a point. I'm gonna tell you a little something about something that happened with me. Childhood sweetheart. We lost contact with each other because I moved out the neighborhood and everything. We reconnected, and we were talking on the phone. It was just such a beautiful situation. I missed him, and I was always wondering what happened if I never moved from the neighborhood, and we never lost touch. Um, so I mean, very romantic evenings together. We spoke on the phone for hours. It was just to the point we were working, planning a future together in our conversations and things, places that we may want to live together. And I think 6 months in, I believe, I find out that this man is married. And I'm like wondering how come you didn't tell me, like all these conversations I didn't have, you didn't think to tell me that you were married or at least separated. Now, I I was at a disadvantage because I invested some time in this guy, and me personally, I don't believe he deserved as much attention that I gave him because he was in a relationship, that was of course broken, but you still needs to fix, solve what you committed to. You're in a relationship, you're married to someone, you tied the knot. You need to work on that or become legally separated, or something. Make up your mind. So in the meantime, so I found out that, he was married, so of course I left it alone. And later, a few years later, I forgave him for his nonsense, but I was like, I'll never. And mind you, he tells me a year later he gets divorced, but it was too late. I was already in a situation, so But I didn't care at that point because if you're gonna lie to me after I've known you for all these years, you couldn't even disclose to me that you were married. As much, of course I wouldn't have invested as much time with him, of course not, but I would have respected him more and we would probably be closer to this day because he was honest. But, he took it upon himself to deceive me because he was fearful of the outcome because he didn't trust, he couldn't risk, I believe. Some people just don't care, but I think he just couldn't risk me making a decision that it didn't benefit him, so he just decided to not tell me nothing. But now is he'll never have a second chance ever. So Anyway, so I spoke to him not too long ago, and that's after me doing my research, because I've added myself in some of these groups on Facebook, and I asked questions and things, and I was asking some of the men, are they truly happy in these polygamous relationships? Some men said, it's different, which means possibly it has its ups and downs, it has its benefits and its annoyances, and then some men are like, instead of answering, they just go and say, well, what is the basis of your question? That's one person asked me, like, where are you going with this? So that told me that it's not all peaches and cream for the men either, even though they have two wives. I mean, they also have, possibly two people nagging, two people giving them attitude, two people on their period. Because usually females, I don't know what it is, but we all get our period around the same time. So it's it's not all happy ever after for these men either. So um, it's very interesting. Let me see before I miss a point. So yeah, so when I spoke to him, my high school sweetheart, when I spoke to him, I said, well, you know, why don't you just, I mean, what are your thoughts on polygamy? Do you think that having two wives would be something that you would want? Like, since, and I said, not for nothing, don't take it personal. I said, but since you were seeing me and married at the same time, what if you could have had the both of us, legally? Would you have done that? Oh no, I'm a one woman man. That one is all I need. One is all I need. I'm like, because now you're contradicting yourself, because you rather sneak and lie and deceive and state that you are with one woman, but as soon as you are given the opportunity to be honest about it, you refuse, you turn down the opportunity because, you like your secrets or whatever. So, I mean, I just thought it was interesting that, if given the opportunity, a lot of men that claim monogamous would not take that opportunity to say, I want two women. Some men would, but some men are like, no, 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 I wouldn't dare. But meanwhile, they're cheating all over the place. And the other thing is that what happens to these other women that you've charmed? Like, I'm sure, I'm not, I mean, there are some loose women out there that are okay with sleeping around, but there are women out there that are looking for a husband. So if you get in a relationship with a woman and she's hoping that you and her would have a happy ever after, you're not going to keep her because you already have your woman at home that you've chosen. Now you have to find a way to break it off with her after you've used her for her body and whatever else you can get out this situation out of her. You know, um, so it's just not fair because it's inhumane to break someone's heart or get into a relationship with someone knowing that your intentions are going to be temporary. It's just not right. Whereas polygamy allows you to stay with them forever. And I believe I have to kind of respect a man that says, okay, well, here it is. I'm bringing her into the family. This is what we're going to do. She's being a part of our community now, and she's staying. And you be committed to that. I have to kind of respect a man that's okay with that. But a man who, breaks that off and then, create, it's traumatizing because, you're wasting a woman's time. You're not really having any good intentions with her. You just pretty much are there temporary. And 9 times out of 10, I believe these women don't even know. Because these men they're very manipulative and they got these suave words to make you fall in love with them because they've been practicing and rehearsing ever since they were teenagers. So it's just a lot of stuff that a lot of pros and cons that you got to look at when it comes to polygamy and monogamy and stuff. So one thing I can say, monogamy, the it leaves no room for honesty. It really doesn't, especially if you have a sexual appetite that you know um, that needs variety. So anyway, the other thing now, let's talk about the game of polygamy, because a lot of times I remember there was a gentleman who he asked in the group. He said, "Well, how could you get a woman to be okay with being in a polygamous relationship? Number one, you can't make a woman want to be in that type of relationship. She has to already have it in her mind that this is beneficial to her. 9 times out of 10, females are, if they are interested in being in a polygamous relationship, is there'll be, I believe, maybe two reasons. One is because religious reasons. Is because you want to be yeah, it maybe with the Muslim women, I think it has a lot to do with just being able to selflessly be in a relationship. Like that's a part of her, I guess, virtues as being a woman of her religion. So I think that may have religious reasons, maybe one thing, and number two is because she sees the benefits, the finance she's drawn to it by the money, the extra income. That's always a plus for some women, and also the help around the house, where if the children are being raised together, they have siblings. And the other thing is that sometimes you may not be able to perform for your husband in a way that you know that it's a lot of stress on a woman to be able to be 100%, chief cook and bottle washer all the time. But now that if you have someone else to back you up, maybe it depends. Not all women, but some do kind of see that as a perk to polygamy. So some people see it that way. And then, the monogamous women automatically they're like, oh, I can't share my man with any woman or whatever. Um, that's the case. But in the meantime, you know, um, if you're in a monogamous relationship, what makes you think that he's 100% monogamous? And it just like I don't know. There's just something to think about. That's it. So now let's talk about the game. Before I get carried away, there was one young lady who posted in the group that her husband does the interviewing um, of the second wife without her. And she's a little concerned because traditionally the wife is supposed to be involved in the interviewing of the second wife. And for some reason, he's been seeing all these women, and she knows of him seeing all these women and communicating with them and meeting up with them, but she doesn't really know if he's have any intentions on being with them. So maybe he is interviewing them for marriage, but the thin line is he may not be interviewing them for marriage. He might just be, having a little fun and not telling them anything. So, that's where the wife is concerned, because how will she know? And that she has to trust him when he says that he doesn't want to bother her with the little details. If he feels that somebody he wants to be around, or that he wants to bring around, then he wants to be able to introduce her to the wife, and then they make the decision. She makes the final decision. So, that's a real sticky situation, because, you don't really know if he's looking for a second wife. He just might be, content with his one wife and just playing around with everybody else under the guise of polygamy. So it's interesting. So it's really, really sticky. That whole situation is really sticky. So, let me make sure I touch everything. You know, sometimes, the other thing is that, like, for the other side of it all, like, when my childhood sweetheart was saying how, he's a one woman man. But meanwhile, his baby mother is pretty much ruining him with child support. Not his baby mother, his ex-wife. She's ruining him with child support. So for him to work, he hasn't been working for a long time now, because he knows that once he starts working, now what man wants to work for free? Because that's what he's going to be doing. He's not going to be able to enjoy any of his money until those children become 18 years old. So had he been in a polygamous relationship, that wouldn't that would those things are non-existent in a polygamous relationship. There is no going to court for child support, because the man is in the house with the wives and the children, and they're all sharing the money together. You know what I mean? So that's one thing. And mind you, I'm not pro polygamy. I'm not against it. I'm not for it. I'm just, being fair. So I just think that people really need to kind of, and it's ultimately everyone else's decision. I just want to, I just think that for me, I need to have some type of education in it before I make a decision. And to be honest with you, I haven't been raised in that culture. I think if you were raised in that culture and you see it, that your mom was you had two moms instead of one, that would be something that you would be okay with. But being that you were raised in, if you were raised in nothing and around nothing but monogamous relationships, you're not going to be okay with polygamy. Because polygamy is going to seem like unfair, and it's not uplifting women at all. But at the end of the day, it's not about the women; it's about the family. And the question is, you know, can a man, is the true nature of a man monogamous, or is he naturally polygamous? That's the question. Because if men were made to be naturally polygamous, then me personally, I would have to respect that, because I refuse to be lied to and be cheated on and be exposed to all these STDs and HIVs and everything, just because he has to cater to my ego and pretend that he's something that he's not. Because now I'm being exposed, and I'm at risk. And I'm not going to last on this planet that long, because he's going to affect me, because he's going to be meeting up with these sleazy, easy women that he met at a bar, who probably, do this on a regular basis. Or it's just a woman who may have been a lonely person that night because her husband was treating her wrong. We don't know if our husband had infected her with anything. So now, my man is out there trying to sow his oats, and he comes home one night after he plays around and gives me something. So instead of being exposed to stuff like that, sometimes you might be better off knowing who he's sharing you with, himself with, So it's really something. I want to know everybody's honest opinions on it. I really want to know. Like I said, I'm naturally monogamous. I really believe in one man, one woman. But if it's not possible, then I want to know. I want to know. I think that there's too much drama in these relationships that distracts our upward mobility as a human race. I'm not even just talking about black people. I'm talking about everybody. Because now, it feels like you get a relationship that may be temporary. So what's the sense of getting married if eventually you guys may have a time where you may break up over whatever. It doesn't feel comforting to know that there's a possibility you're investing all your money in this beautiful wedding and you may not be successful because he is not naturally monogamous. He's a polygamist, or he's a polyamorous, or whatever. You know, he's not going to be faithful to you because he's not. That's not what he is. He's not faithful because he's not naturally faithful because, it's not in his DNA to do so. So it's really interesting. It's just something that I've been thinking, and like I said, share your thoughts. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, please start the conversation in the comments below, and I will respond because I really want to know. And if you're listening to this on Spreaker, I believe you can leave a comment. If not, share it in a group and start your own conversation. But, I think it needs to be addressed. I think it's something that we need to talk about. I mean, there should